What is up, everyone? It is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. And so today's video, with the start of December, that means it is almost finals exam season in college. Boo! So in today's video, I'm going to share some of my biggest study tips for college final exams, especially if you go to a school with an RRR week, also known as dead week at colleges like UC Berkeley, where we had a week between the last week of classes and the week of final exams to study for finals. So if you're new to my channel, hello, my name is Rachel. I graduated from UC Berkeley in the class of 2020, where I double majored in cognitive science and legal studies. And right now I am currently working full-time at a law firm and part-time as an admissions reader for college. Speaking of, if you are a student currently applying to colleges or a current college student looking for advice, definitely check out Study Hall College Consulting. It's a team of UC Berkeley students and graduates who specialize in reviewing college application essays as well as consulting one-on-one with students and parents for everything ranging from college application essay advice to general college tips, tricks, study advice. So definitely check out all of Study Hall's social media and website for more information. So without further ado, let's get this video started. So before starting this video, I'm also going to have linked down below in the description a bunch of other videos that I've done related to organization, study tips, note-taking in college that will definitely be helpful if you're looking for advice on those. So check those out after watching this video. So the first final exam study tip that I have is to start early. And that might sound so easy and so basic, but for me, my mistakes that I made freshman and even sophomore year was waiting until the end of dead week to start studying for finals. So by that, I would wait until the Wednesday of dead week, the Thursday of dead week to start studying when your final exams started the Monday the week after, leaving yourself only 3 or 4 days of studying for 4 or 5 classes is not enough time. Similarly, if you're at a college that doesn't have this week before final exams, then you definitely need to start studying early as well. Some people even start prepping for finals at the end of their Thanksgiving break when December starts, because in 2 weeks, final exams quickly approach. And if you're procrastinating and not starting your studying until the very last minute, only giving yourself a couple days to review the material in numerous hard classes, you're going to feel so stressed, rushed, and anxious when you start studying, and that's not a good feeling. And if you're pulling all-nighters, that isn't good because your brain needs to rest. And there have been cases where people I know, friends of friends, have slept through their 8 a.m. finals because they stayed up late the night before trying to cram all the information. And if you take any kind of like intro to psychology class, they all say you need your sleep and you cannot cram information. Your brain just won't retain that information. Even more reasons to start early. So after I made those mistakes freshman, sophomore year of starting studying too late, I would start studying that first Saturday of dead week to give myself a whole week in order to get all of the material studied and into my brain so that I could do well on my final exams. And when you start studying earlier, because you gave yourself more time, you are more able to fit in times of rest and relaxation into that period because you aren't cramming all the information last minute. So before finals, it is still super necessary to take care of yourself, get enough sleep, eat right, and drink a lot of water. So before I even started studying, I would plan my study schedule. And with that, I would write down all of the classes that I'm taking. So if I'm taking 4 classes or 5 classes, I would list those, and then underneath it, I would list everything that I wanted to accomplish in that class. So I would write things down like reviewing the notes, going over the homeworks, going over the exams we took in the class. If the professor is giving you a study guide or a practice exam, writing those down on your list of things that you need to accomplish. So with that list, then I will create another list listing each day of the week, and then under each day, I would write down the things that I want to accomplish for that day. So say if it's later in dead week, then maybe some of the tasks that I want to complete would be more of the going over the practice exams, going over old exams, rather than reviewing notes or creating flashcards, because reviewing the notes, creating flashcards would be something that I needed to do at the start of the week rather than at the end of the week, because reviewing your notes, that is going to give you the basis for the rest of the material so that you can do a practice exam. So I always felt that it was so helpful to write everything down, create to-do lists for myself so I know, okay, am I on track? Am I falling behind in my study schedule? Am I where I need to be for this class? And it's a good way to hold yourself accountable so that you can't just procrastinate on all of your studying, but you get things done. And I really like having lists because it's so visual and you feel so accomplished when you check things off of the list. It's a great feeling. My next study tip when you're studying for finals would be to go over the notes, homeworks, exams, lectures, and any other class materials that the professor may have provided. So for me, this part of studying took the longest amount of time because at the start of every dead week or when I'm preparing for any kind of midterm, quiz, test, I would literally type up all of my notes. So usually in class, I'm a pen and paper kind of gal. I would write all the notes down in my notebook, and then before any test or exam, I would transcribe all of my notes into a Word document while also looking at like the lecture slides, re-listening to parts of lecture that maybe I didn't fully understand. And I always felt that rewriting these notes really helped to refresh my brain on the material that we just learned in class and got me thinking about the material and studying the material while just writing the notes again. And then when you do that for all of your midterms, you have little study guides for each of the midterms that you've taken in the class so far, which are super useful resources for that final exam because most final exams are cumulative, where cumulative basically means for the final, they are testing you on everything that you learned throughout the semester. And so with these cumulative exams, you really need to have the basics down, what you learned those first few weeks of class, because in a lot of classes, by the time you get to the final exam, you are really advanced in the material that you're learning, and you need what you learned on day 1 in order to build to get to the final exam. So if you don't have the basics down, it is going to be very difficult for you to get the like week 10 material down because you probably needed the week 1 material to learn the week 10 material. So I felt that rewriting my lecture notes, going over the lecture slides again, really helped me get the basics down before I actually started drilling the material, doing any practice exams. It really gave me a refresher and helped me relearn what I learned in the course beforehand. So then after I rewrite all of my notes and create those little study guides for myself, then I will start to actually drill the material and start studying. And by that, I would usually go over the homeworks and any midterm quizzes, tests that we took in the class previously and redo all of those problems, because chances are stuff that you saw on the homework or stuff that you were already tested on might come back on the final, and you're going to need those skills because the final exam is typically harder than the homework and quizzes you've taken in the class prior. And with that, if it's a class that has a textbook with practice problems, then I would usually just do some more random practice problems out of the textbook that maybe weren't assigned for homework or anything, but usually textbooks, they have like a challenge area at the end of each chapter that gives you challenge questions. So after I feel like I have a basis down, I can do a lot of the different kinds of questions and know a lot of the material from the class, then I will move on and start to practice using the actual old exams or study guides that the professor provides. For final exams, a lot of professors, they will send out some kind of study guide, or they'll link a lot of the old exams that previous years of this class have taken. If the professor doesn't do those things, you can try to Google for old exams from the class, especially if you go to a big school. A lot of times you can find a lot of old materials online just by doing a quick Google search, but you 100% need to do the study guide or any of the old exams that the professor is providing, especially if the old exam is taught by the same professor. Chances are the professor is going to use a similar format, question types for the upcoming final that they used in the past. Depending on the class, with these practice exams, you may want to simulate the real-life test procedures. So say you only get 3 pages of scrap paper, practice with only 3 pages of scrap paper. If your exam is time limited to 3 hours and you think timing might be a problem for you to write a few essays or to do some math problems, computer science problems, then maybe do these practice exams timed so that you can get a feel for the pacing that you need to do for the real final. And I would definitely say when you're doing practice exams or doing the study guide, do not cheat yourself, but do these resources thoroughly, because if you cheat on your practice exams, the only one that you're hurting is yourself, and you're cheating yourself from good studying. So that means don't just look at the practice exam and then you stare at it for 15 minutes at a question and you're like, okay, I don't know how to do this question, and then you look at the answer key provided. No, that is not helpful at all. But for me, I would go through the entire test. If I didn't really know how to answer a question, I would at least try to answer it to my best ability, and then after I completed the entire exam, then I would go back, usually like in a red pen, then mark areas that I need to improve on. If it's like a math problem, see where I needed to go with the math problem, and then learn the steps for that kind of problem. So like all of these steps, they take so freaking long. That's why I say start early, because literally a cycle. If you don't know how to do something, you go back to the start to learn how to do it, and then you try again. Can you answer questions that are similar but a little bit different? Can you answer different kinds of essays with proof from the text that you've been reading from? There is a lot to study, especially when you're taking 3, 4, 5 classes. And finally, for final exam study tips, I would definitely say you should be going to office hours and to the review sessions that are hosted by the professor or a graduate student or TA. So usually a lot of classes, they will hold office hours during dead week, right before finals, the last week of classes, and they'll also hold optional review sessions during that time. Once it was announced the day and time, I would always write them down in my calendar or agenda planner, because the office hours and review sessions can be so helpful, because they would usually be answering questions and going over material that you may need for the final. So for something like office hours, I wouldn't just go into office office hours not having studied at all yet, but I would go into office hours with some questions that I had marked down, knowing that, hey, I'm going in order to ask these questions. And also, if there's a lot of students at office hours, you can learn from each other. So maybe someone else had a question that you maybe didn't write down, but when you're listening to them talk about the question, you're like, oh wait, I'm actually confused about that too. So you can also learn at these office hours. And the review sessions are also super helpful. They'll probably be going over practice exams and answering any questions. So yeah, those are some of my big tips for studying for final exams. Definitely let me know if you have any questions in the comments down below, and if you have any video ideas that you want to see from me, also leave a comment down below. Thank you all so much for watching. It really means a lot. Make sure you like this video to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos from me. Thanks so much again. Good luck on finals, and I will see you all next time.